Okay, guys, we are sharing information in this show, in this podcast. So we'd like you guys to support us, watch us, view us, tell your friends that we exist. Show the likes, show the subscription that you are behind us all the way. And today's topic is about Ilobolo. And we will be diving deep and finding out where is it coming from, where is it now, where is it going. And here to just dive in with us and let us know more about it, our theologian Ustebe. And we're gonna start right away, Menier. Just try and let us in on what is Ilobolo and where does it come from?
isiZulu asitolingwa bhuti. Well, ilobolo bhuti, it's an old practice, custom practice, which started around second century. It is very familiar in the southern parts of Africa. That will be South Africa, United Kingdom of Swaziland, Malawi. And yes, it's very common again in west parts of Africa. That would be your Nigeria and so on. So ilobolo, it's a provision of gifts to a bride's family, coming from a groom's family, um, in a form of cash or livestock. But again, I may say to you, maybe in contemporary language, ilobolo, it's a form of compensation that it's paid to the bride's family for job well done that they have done in raising their daughter. But it goes beyond that. Ilobolo, it's one practice, that form alliances, that again guides us ukuthi we need to be in a part of at least established relationship, and then again it is a very sacramental a practice, more especially to those who believe in ancestors. There is a ritual within it, whereby they slaughter a goat, and then they introduce the bride into the ancestors. So you can see that ilobolo, it does not only involve two people, but it involves families. It involves the ancestors, and through this process, obviously there will be jubilations around the village. There will be women ululating and all that. So it is a very important part of our history, and it is a very, at least, significant and symbolic part of our indigenous people, that we can really be proud of ourselves and say, this at least is the custom that we have managed to keep.
Oh, okay. Moving on to the second question. What happened to this practice? Because of it seems it's declining. Do you perhaps know before the colonization and all that?
Yeah. Well, but ilobolo, again, just to add on it, ilobolo played part in forming alliances, like I said. So you'd find that, a daughter from Guandlove, um, maybe Kwanongoma, and then we'll go and eyogcagcela kwaSithebe, which it's now part of maybe Empangeni. So the people from Kwanongoma and people from Empangeni will form an alliance. So there will be families even during the time of wars and all that. So these people, they will come together because of now there is a union that is involved. That's one part. And another part would be ilobolo itself. It's a transition or a passage into adulthood. Very important. And again, it had, um, economical benefits on it, and it was very, very attached or interlinked to the issues of land. Because of once we have paid ilobola, your elder or your parent will take you to induna, where ukishwa inqiwa now. Then you will be given a piece of land or land per se, for you to start your own family, for you to plow, for you to plant. And again, after the practice or ilobola has been finished, the parents, your parents, will give you a startup, what we call a startup in contemporary language. I mean, kettles, ukuthi uyosengela abantwana, so that kids, they do not go to bed without food, And again, that practice would go on and on and on and on. Yes.
Oh, okay, so Lobola was, if I'm trying to get you, was me giving my son a space to start his own family.
Definitely. But remember, and the ownership of land, because of obviously you giving him space, you liberate him now to start his own family, to be his, to have his own responsibilities. That's why in South African culture, specifically in Gunis, it's very symbolic. People bayayigcaja ngokuthi ulotsholiwe noma ulobole, because of it also bring that issue of status. And yes, mfowethu, how this thing it's practiced, it's very diverse. Again, it differs from one ethnic group to another, or one nation to another. There is no one way of looking at it, or maybe of understanding it. It's very complex. But just to add on what you have said, yes, remember, ilobolo kahle kahle, your parents will assist you. At some point, your parents will even pay those kettles, on your behalf, So basically, it was your family giving you now a responsibility that you continue with this lineage, because of, again, it's very important that we need to put it in context that it's all about the continuity of a lineage per se.
Okay.
Yes.
Moving forward.
Yes.
What do you think now is the difference between slavery and paying lobola? Because there's exchange of money most.
Yeah. Well, Vetu, I think it's very important for us to to teach the audience and South Africans at large that Ilobola was paid, in a form of kettles. That was before, the white settlers and missionaries came into our shores. So that's a given. Ilobolo was paid through, a form of kettles. So now, when these white settlers came into our country and colonized us, what they did, one, it was an issue of disposition of land. It was the issue that, they stole our kettles. Now we had no kettles, and we had no land.
No land.
So again, that practice now, it became less important, because of, even if you wanted to take part in it, you never had now tools to do so, or you were not in a better environment, because of you had no kettles.
No land.
No land. And then when they took, our land, when these people took our kettles now, what they did, they introduced us in a form of capitalism. They introduced, a currency which was very foreign to us. Remember, first it was Dutch settlers who came into South Africa, and later joined by whites. by British missionaries. And then there was the Anglo-Boer War. I think you remember there was an Anglo-Boer War between the two of them fighting in our own land, fighting for our own land. And then they introduced what we call upondo, which is pound, and then again, now after these people, they repossessed they took our cattle and land. Now there was an issue of a labor act that was introduced to native blacks now, to say you need to work, and in order for you to have this form of currency, which is a pound, you need to work. And again, there was an issue of migration where people migrated, were forcefully taken to work in the mines. Um, years back, 10 years back, I had an opportunity to do a research in the outskirts of KZN in regards to this topic. And I met an elderly. He was on his 90s. And he says to me, by the way, he was not married. And he was not, yes, and he was not part of this Lobol. And we must remember that the stats show that before the whites came into our shores, 90% of our people were practicing Ilobolo. They were married, 90% of them. But because of these factors that I've just alluded to you, there was now a sudden decline. And then this elderly man said to me, I never had a privilege to get married or to pay Ilobol. And I'm asking why. He says, one, my father had no cows. He says, I was taken when I was around, when I was young, forcefully so, to work in the mines. And I never had an opportunity to actually meet someone whom my heart desired, or someone whom was my first preference to start a family. So you see, all these issues that were created by colonization and white supremacy.
All right, moving along to our second segment of the show, where we look into the middle now, the current situation of Ilobolo. Do you think is the Lobola going to be practiced, or is it practiced currently, and what is the cause of the decline?
Well, there is this movement. I call it a movement, which is neo-African. They are African, but they are not African. They seem to hate Western ideas, yet they seem again to interpret our African ways and custom in a Western way. So to answer your question, Fetu, yes, Ilobolo had survived colonization. Ilobolo has survived. Through World War One, World War Two, Ilobolo had survived. Economical challenges. So I still believe that even in our modern age, as I understand that there are people who are practicing it, even though again I must state categorically so that Ilobolo is one a custom that changes from time to time. I think that's a fact because of now really there are few people who in their position they have hair of cattle. There is a man now which is an exchange of cattle. But yes, it will survive and it is surviving.
Looking into the Lobola now, which is very costly. Around, I heard Kune paid about R1 million on a mini. So, as women now are more empowered and they have money more than men, some of them, do you think maybe is there an opportunity for women to pay lobola for the guys.
Yeah, again, Mfowethu, it's the issue of equality. We must understand that the issue of equality itself, it's not African. The issue of equality, it's very Eurocentric. So and here I will try by all means to focus on the genesis, on the originality of this practice, Ilobolo. And again, I'm not too sure. I'm not too sure, Guti. This thing, Yoguti. I mean, women will pay lobola for us. Where does it emanate from? Because you must remember again that in Western ideology they don't practice this lobola thing. So therefore, why would you say because of I'm able now, then you seem to defy your custom just because of your status in terms of money? For me, again, it is absurd.
Okay. No, I'm going to ask in a view of the West because of we are living in the Western
True,
world.
true, true.
Yeah,
True,
so I'm
true.
sure to accommodate a lot of
Yes,
our viewers out there.
I'm just addressing your question that the issue of this neo-Africanism, it's an issue to me because of again, now we are trying to understand Ilobolo, in which is an African custom, which is an African way of doing things, which is an African way of assembling a union between the two people. But it goes further to families, it goes further to villages and all that. And again, it was one party that was of our custom that was giving us, emancipation to most of things.
All right, you talked about Ilobolo changing with times.
Yes.
And if ever I say now, I can pay Ilobola through paying school fees for my potential wife. Isn't that innovation going forward?
No, it is not. It is not. Actually, what it would be doing, it will be belittling this custom that we have, this valuable custom that we call Ilobolo. Because of, you must remember that again, when whites came into our shores, they decultured us. Most of things were eradicated, and there was now a new system that was introduced to us. And to answer you directly, I would say, in your way, you need to find money somewhere to pay for your kids because of, again, for me, Ilobolo is it's the way of life. And then you do not say, no, instead of buying a milli, I'm not going to buy a milli at all. I'm going to buy milk. But again, in your life, in your daily life, you need milli, you need milk. So it cannot be correct to say we must now take, what it in what we're trying to pay. We must take the money that we're supposed to pay Ilobolo and then channel it into our kids' school fees. I think it's wrong.
The core, one of the core functions for Ilobolo was that the woman will come and cook and clean for the man. Do you think it's still the same thing apply even today? If you lobola someone, must she have that skills to
We mustn't domesticate things, Apoti. We mustn't domesticate things as Africans. There was one a philosopher who once said to me, Muzi, the the difference between Africans and Westerns is that uh, a Western woman who is white will have financial freedom. That's number one. And number two, she'll have a family. But she would go outside and advocate, the issue and the prejudices that women faces every day. But after she has finished whatever she's doing on the day, she will go back to her husband. She will go back to her kids. She will go back and perform the duties now as a wife. Now I'm talking about a white counterpart. Now we're having an issue that we seem to think that if ever our black women are, are, are given an opportunity or have a privilege of better financial resources, that makes them more supreme than men. It makes them neglect their um, primary what we call responsibilities that they need to perform. In their homes daily. For me, the issue of whether they must cook, definitely they must cook because of it's their role. I'm not saying it's their role only, but for my understanding, it's that when you now decide to be you decide to take part in this form of ilobolo, in the form of umshado, you understand there are responsibilities. There are certain things that must be done or must be provided by a man. There are certain things that must be provided by you. And for me, I think for this unity to work, it's the matter of one understanding his or her role in this union.
Hmm, hmm, hmm. Oh, all right. Moving to the last segment of the show, which is where we look into the future of Ilobolo. Is it still going to be practiced according to your understanding, Stella, going into the future?
I want to believe what it's going to be practiced because of, like I said to you, that it has survived through test of times, but it has always been one a practice that most especially the Nguni people, that it's very symbolic to them, that it's very closer to their hearts, so under circumstances, yes, it may change from time to time, but I think it would survive. And it has survived again, even when these white people, or the white ideologies try to actually paint it and try to show the world that it's one of the barbaric acts or one of the barbaric customs that a black man has ever initiated.
All right, Paparik. All right. Do you think Ilawala should come back after the breakup or the divorce?
Well, again, to ilobolo for its inception, uh, like I said to you, Uguti, 90% of people were practicing ilobolo, and there were no divorces at the time. That's why even in our language, asinalo igama ekuthiwa yi-divorce. Even if things were bad, I understand that what you would do, rather, you would build another house not far from your homestead or from your house. You would build another house, and then you will take, I mean, that woman and say, okay, fine, doctor, as we don't agree on certain issues, go and stay there. I think the typical example of it would be our former president Jacob Zuma and I think Umantuli, where they had some differences. But remember, Uzuma was again by law forced to take care of that woman. So for me, the issue of Uguti, you need to go back and fetch your kettles. I think it's very absurd. I know that some people practice it, but remember that even this woman who's part of this Ilobolo, I mean, she had spent her years here. You know, she has been looking after for your kids or so, you know. So yes, and again, I understand where that room is it's coming from, because of now in nowadays there is infidelity and all that.
Mm. All right, as we're about to wrap up now, just kindly give us a way forward into how do we now go back to the genesis of the lobola now to find the, the the real cause and then remove those all those things that make us to or that makes lobola not to be relevant anymore.
It's a very difficult exercise, which I may not say it's not possible, but it's difficult because of people are modernized, and people they seem to think ukuthi when they gain this financial freedom, it gives them a more privilege to neglect their customs, to neglect their beliefs, and with the involvement of the government of South Africa today, I see it difficult but possible. And one of the ways, one, it would be encouraging people, one, to own cattle. The government itself must fast track the issue of land, and and the land must be given to people, so that even if you decide to be part of this custom, you decide to go and pay ilobolo, but you I mean you pay ilobolo, but where exactly you going to now start working in terms of plowing, in terms of feeding your families, because of your family, because of we can never shy away from the fact that the issue of unemployment in jail on its own, it's very catastrophic for us.
All right, as we are wrapping up, any advice on the topic for our fellow viewers?
Well, my advice on the matter at hand would be, let's question ourselves whether we want to follow the Western ideology, or we want to remain African. And should the answer be we want to remain African, therefore we must try by all means not to dissect it in a Western way, not to dilute it with other variations that are religiously based, that are Westernly based. That would be my advice.
So you're saying basically that we must choose whether we want to marry in an African way or the Western way.
True.
This double job doesn't work.
It doesn't work.
You
It's,
heard
it's,
it.
it's a useless expenditure, by the way.
You heard it from the show, guys. We are glad you could bless us with your presence, Mr. Steve.